So we can start right away. I will switch over to my screen in a second with a presentation, but first some words about me. My name is ERIK HANSSON. I am a native Swede and I live in Germany since 1991. I have more than 25 years of experience as a translator. I translate mainly technical text from German into Swedish, and I'm specialized in engineering, automation, medtech, and similar technical stuff. I am a member of the Swedish Association of Professional Translators, SFÖ, and I'm also a co-founder and an honorary member of the German Translation Association, DVUD. I am a networker and very active on social media. Most and for all on Facebook and Twitter, which is the very reason for today's webinar. And I've been there since around 2009. In 2013, I founded the Facebook group Things Translators Never Say, or TTNS in short, where I am now one of the three admins. In today's webinar, we will have a closer look at Twitter and how translators and interpreters can apply this platform for their own business. Of course, it is possible not only to use it for your business, you can also use it for private purposes and many other purposes, of course, but we will have to focus on the business today, of course. So before we start, I will just need to share my screen. Just hang on a second. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Okay, so everybody's talking about Twitter, but what's in it? What's in it for me? Of course, that's a partly rhetorical question. First of all, we would have to look into the social media in general, because we normally turn to social media for a number of reasons. Social media today has become a means for billions of people around the globe to stay connected and to stay informed or to share information. And of course, there are too many different social media to analyze in this webinar. Facebook and Snapchat and Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Of course, we can't look at them all, but just to compare today, I have picked out three of them: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as they are among the most successful social media brands. And then we will compare these three ones, and of course, focus on Twitter after that. And we can first have a look at Facebook, which is the largest social media platform in the world, and a lot of people use it to stay connected with their families and friends, and they post engaging content such as polls or live streams, or they share stories from their families, and maybe they post some eye-catching images with headlines and so on, just to gain attention. And there are about 2.5 billion monthly users on Facebook. One of the pros with Facebook is that you can reach a large audience. It has the largest user base of all social media platforms. There is a higher opportunity for your content to reach a larger audience on a global scale everywhere in the world. And for small businesses, there is, for example, this feature called Facebook Ads, and it has the tools to target a smaller scale of audiences that are more local. So for some smaller businesses, depending on what you sell, services, products, it can be interesting. However, there are not only pros, there are cons. Facebook, it's quite congested with unreliable and clickbait news, and it has become less favorable because of partly polarizing content. It is not really a platform for business-to-business communication. It's more between private person and, in the best case, B2C, business to consumers, but not very much on business to business. And also we talk about Facebook ads. These ads can become quite costly if you want to if you want your content to be visible on news feeds on a continuous basis every day, and it will be it will cost a lot of money. So it is, in my point of view, it is not the best platform for business purposes. Looking into Instagram, it's a popular platform for influencers and small businesses, and where they can share creative content. And this is very often photos or story updates or videos. And yeah, maybe that's another kind of audience. There are about 1 billion monthly users. 1 billion monthly users. That's quite a number. As I see it, on the pro side, you have if you apply Instagram stories, you get this personal engagement with your clients or with your potential clients, and you can use this initial engagement to make a potential client a client of yours, and you can stay in contact with your customers once they are customers and clients. But of course, there are also cons. It's quite time consuming, because you constantly need to post good content, especially when you need to be active to stay relevant. If you are not active, you will be forgotten, you will not stay relevant, and you will of course not be shown in the feed, and so you will not be present. Another thing is that Instagram, it is not link friendly. It's not possible to put clickable links on your photo, on your pictures, in your videos, or simply within your posts. And this is of course something that negatively affect your SEO. It is not possible to put in links in your posts. But of course, the third one, as we were speaking about, Twitter. This is a platform that crowdsources important news and discussion threads. And quite often we can find opinions and discussions on trending topics. It is not only that, it also provides a medium to communicate and to exchange ideas between peers, between colleagues, and yeah, even on the political scale. It's quite interesting if you know how to pick those tweets you're interested, or that information you're interested in. And the content can be about not only text, can also be images, about videos, even some funny and some witty tweets. So it can be some kind of entertaining, and also of course educational, because you learn a lot. Every month there are about 300 million active users. 300 million users every month all over the world. And out of these 300 million, it is, as the statistics say, about 40% are active on a daily basis. And if you compare this with Facebook and Instagram, so, oh, that's not so very much. But I would beg to disagree, because it's not only about the number of users, it's also about the question we have to ask ourselves: what kind of users are there? If we have no chances to reach out to our potential clients on Facebook, I would turn to another platform with, in total, less users, but with far more interesting users. So on the pro side, on Twitter, there is an agreement between Twitter and Google. Not so many people know about this, but they have an agreement, and which means that your tweets, anything, your messages, anything you put on Twitter is most likely to show up at the top of the Google search results. And it makes Twitter really the holy grail for your business's SEO? Just imagine if you tweet regularly, maybe not only once a day, but let's say 5 times a day, and you stick to a certain topic, of course you will show up on Google, and not on page 25, but on the first page, and maybe in the upper third of that page. And also with Twitter, it's possible to use targeted keywords, and these are the so-called hashtags, if you have heard of them. We will have a closer look at hashtags in a second. And these keywords, they can be used to attract a certain kind of audience you're looking for. You don't want to attract everybody, because not everybody is interested in translation or languages in general, but you want to attract a certain kind of audience, and this audience they are of course looking for a certain keyword. So it's just like a win-win situation. So you can attract an audience outside your followers list. You have followers, those who follow you directly, but you can also attract other people. They will find you, and this will of course also increase your traffic by a mile. And of course, everything is not sunshine on Twitter. Of course, there are some cons as well. It can be quite overwhelming, because it might be a good place for delivering content, and it's a very high pace. It means it's very, if you have many followers, and if you follow many accounts, of course your feed, your timeline will just quite rotate. So if you just refresh it every 3 minutes or once a minute, you will get a totally new content. So the amount of posts in your timeline, in your feed, it can be overwhelming, and you can get an impression it's quite congested. And also there are quite a few bots and trolls around. Bots meaning there are certain automatic accounts, and they always react or always tweet again whatever you write, whatever you have tweeted with a certain keyword. These bots are programmed to retweet those tweets with a certain word. So if you just drop a tweet with a certain word, and of course you don't know what bots they are, how they are programmed, all of a sudden you notice this has been retweeted, it has been repeated by somebody, and this somebody is not a person, it's simply a bot. And bots are fine, but trolls are a bit more, of course, more annoying. So of course, if we have to ask ourselves which platform, of course, this is again a quite rhetorical question, given the situation that we are today talking about Twitter. But still, let me give you some hints or some very condensed information about each platform. Facebook has a broad appeal across ages, although there has been a switch the last 5 or maybe 8 years that less young people, they have left Facebook. There are more, I couldn't say elder people, but adult people, 30, 35 years old or older. We gather at Facebook, and the younger people, they go to TikTok or other places. And on Facebook, we have a more B2C approach. It's business to consumer, or possibly among private person, but not so much from business to business. And that's something to keep in mind if you think about which platforms could be used for your business. If you look into Instagram, the users, they tend to be younger, and your activity is, of course, again, based on visual content. And this is the place where you can hang around if you want to find influencers, if they are important to you. And if it's important to you to know what they think about all kinds of topics in the world, it is not so interesting to me. So, and of course, if we look into Twitter, and this is the platform where you can easily find industry news and where you can easily find discussions. And there is also a potential for your professional networking. But again, it depends on how you use Twitter and how you set up your network. It's not only entering Twitter, setting up a profile, and everything is working. Of course, it is. I can't say it's hard work, but you have to stick to it, and you have to maybe you have to apply some kind of strategy, or asking yourself, who am I going to follow? What kind of stuff am I going to tweet? And what is my, in general, what is my strategy for applying Twitter for my own business? And that's something we really have to keep in mind. So, okay, speaking about Twitter, let's first have a look at the history a little. Twitter, it is quite old. It's 16 years old now, and it was founded in 2006 as a research project. And today, Twitter is a global platform, we all know, for so-called micro blogging and social networking. Maybe somebody would ask me, what about blogging? I only know that Twitter, there is a quite harsh restriction on the length of messages. Yes, but there are solutions to that. We will talk about that later. Social networking, that's a no-brainer. That's clear, because we use it to build our networks among colleagues, also among friends, of course. It all depends how you're going to use Twitter, and what you're aiming for. There are about 200 million daily active users. Yeah, I would say 150 and 200 million. We are somewhere in that range. And every day there are about 500 million short messages, the so-called tweets. A short message on Twitter is called tweet. So 500 million short messages per day, that corresponds to 350,000 tweets every minute. And that's quite a number. And again, one of the shortcomings, as I often heard, or what people tell me or ask me, is like, well, that is the limitation of characters, number of characters in the messages, in the tweets. Well, for many years, the limitation was set at 140 characters, and this was because Twitter began as an SMS-based platform. So the mobile carriers, they imposed the limit, and it was not from Twitter's side. But about 5 years ago, 2017, this limit was changed from 140 to 280 characters. So at least we have 280 characters in one tweet. That is the space we can use. Of course, we can apply abbreviations, we can apply hashtags, and there are many benefits with hashtags, just to use this space in a most efficient way. And I really don't think that this limitation is a shortcoming or is a problem, because next to the benefit of shorter messages, because who has the time to read a long message? Personally, I seldom have the time to read a very long post on LinkedIn, for example. It's too long. It takes too much time. On Twitter, it's very short, it's very condensed, and I know, okay, this won't take me 15 minutes or 10 minutes to read it all. It will take me 1 minute or less. And again, on Twitter, we can apply hashtags, and we can even make threads, which means you send off a tweet, you have a longer story, but this story is of course not possible in only 280 characters. That's not very much. So, but you split up your story in small chunks, in small parts. So you send up a tweet with the first part of your longer story. Then you tweet a reply to your own first tweet. So it gets into the same thread. And there you have the next part of the story, and then another reply, and so on. And it's also quite useful, because it is clearly visible on Twitter in your account that it is a thread, that all these 10 tweets, that they belong together, so they are a thread, that they are connected to each other. And that's one of the benefits. If you have a very long story or a longer story, longer than 280 characters. So I have made some screenshots from my Twitter, from my Twitter profile, on my Twitter environment. The platform structure on Twitter, it's quite straightforward. And if you're a new user, it won't take a long time for you to find yourself around. But first of all, we need a profile, as in most or all platforms. And this profile, it has certain parts, of course. And for example, we need a username. On Twitter, all usernames, they start with this @ sign, and the name may not be longer than 15 characters. And if you get onto Twitter, of course, you will have to think about what kind of username shall I use, because once you have it, I think you should stick to it. It's not a very wise idea to change later on. I don't even know if it's possible. You have to set up a totally new account. So if you have a very common name, let's say John Smith, and John Smith has already been taken, of course, you will get a message from Twitter. It's like, okay, we noticed that you want to set up an account, but unfortunately this name has already been taken. So then, of course, you have to work around. You can turn around, instead of John Smith, you make it Smith John, or you make an underline as I have in my name, or you add some kind of number, or I mean, there are so many different ways how to choose a username. And the username is not the same as the user, because the user is my proper name, but the username is my Twitter name, my platform name. Also, of course, I need a bio. I need a catchy description about myself, only describing who I am, what I'm doing, and I have even in this description, in this bio, I have also, you can see at the end of my description, I have also added the hashtag #, XL8, and this XL8, it is a very basic, a very general hashtag for translation, translator, anything that has to do, that is connected with translation. On Twitter, we use this hashtag, which consists of the hash mark, of course, and then X is for trans, or for moving, and L and L8 translate. So XL8 is it's a very common hashtag, a common abbreviation in my Twitter universe. And I have also included this in my description, just to make myself more visible. And here's also the place where we add a profile picture, and we can also add a profile background. I have put up here Brandenburger Tor in Berlin, and I've also added later on. You can see here I have my category is translator just below the description, and I've added my location and a link to my website, my birthday, and so on. And I joined in April 2009. Also, here on this page, you can see the number of so-called following. And the term following, in my profile, it describes the number of Twitter accounts that I follow. I have chosen to follow them. They can be colleagues who also follow me, but there can also be some celebrities, or maybe some news sources. For example, I have CNN, I have BBC, and so on. I'm not really sure if CNN follows me. Why should they? But I follow CNN, for example, and other news sources, and they are among these 11.9 thousand accounts that I follow. And also, in this one, the so-called followers, and followers, that describes those who follow me. They have chosen, they have decided to follow me. And that can be anybody. Of course, I can neglect if they ask to follow me, or they simply follow me, and then I just have to state it, and then okay, I could block them if I'm not very keen on having them as a follower, but normally I just keep them. These two groups, they are not necessarily mutual. So if somebody follows me, I am not obliged to or forced to follow them back. Of course, I can, but I decide myself whom I'm going to follow and not. Just because they follow me, maybe they follow me because they find my tweets interesting, but when I look into their profiles, into their descriptions, it's not so interesting for me. So I really don't see any reason to follow them back, and that is the reason why there is this roughly 2,000 accounts difference between on my profile between the following and the follower. So there is no need to follow back every time somebody starts following me. So again, how is Twitter structured? We have the timeline. The timeline is also the so-called feed. This is the place where all the tweets are shown, and these tweets are from accounts that I have chosen to follow. So of course, these tweets are not from complete Twitter, because imagine 350,000 tweets a minute, that's a bit too much. And because here we only see tweets from those accounts that I have chosen to follow. So the more accounts I follow, the more tweets will show up here. And the faster the pace will be, of course, because there's continuous day out and every day, every night, of course, because we speak about all the 24 time zones, and here we can see the tweets from those accounts that I have chosen to follow. Sometimes, however, Twitter also sneaks in some so-called suggested content, and suggested content is something based on algorithms that Twitter might think I'm interested in certain topics, depending on my Google search, depending on what kind of links I have clicked on Twitter or elsewhere, and that's something we have to live with. It's not so annoying, because it's quite seldom, and it's not very dominant in my timeline. So, and also in this one, in the timeline, we have the possibility to reply, and replying means if we, for example, want to start a discussion with somebody, or we want to add something, or maybe we want to explain that we disagree with somebody, I can just click on reply. And in this case, for example, the tweet from Nick Hutton, if I click on this symbol for reply, there will open a new small window where I can enter my tweet, and my tweet will be a part of a new thread, starting with his tweet, continuing with mine, and maybe there is a reply to my reply, and so on. So it's all a thread, and I can of course also show appreciation with I want to add something. That's also a possibility. Further on, if I find something worthwhile on Twitter, and I think more people should know about this, I can decide to retweet it. I tweet it again, retweet, because the person who sent a tweet, they have their own circles. Of course, not the same followers as I have, and I have my followers. So if I retweet something, it is spread to another kind of circle, to other followers, and maybe they retweet it, so it's spread all over Twitter. And if it's something very, very interesting and it's very relevant to a lot of people, this is the way how information spreads quickly, in a breathtaking pace. Within hours, it can be like the world has gotten this information. Can be some kind of news flash or whatever, and that is the way how to spread it further from one circle to another circle, and then on and on and on. So it's really it has a high potential to spread information, spread news, and so on. And I can also express my appreciation. I do not retweet, but I can click on this like. Whenever I click on this little heart, if I haven't done it here, but if I had done it, this heart would be red, of course, because it is a sign. I show to the original tweeter that I agree, and for some reason I decided not to retweet. Of course, I can do everything. I can like, and I can also retweet, of course, and I can even send a reply. So it's not like I can only do one of these. I can take all three, or only pick two, or whatever. But these are the ways how to react on a certain tweet from those users that I follow. Before we leave this screenshot, if you have a closer look, for example, at the first tweet, the one from T-Works Group, there are some terms in blue at the very top, or at the end of that tweet, and Diwali 2022 and Diwali and so on. And these are the so-called hashtags. And hashtags is something that is very, very typical for Twitter. I know it is now used in on other platforms as well. I've seen it on LinkedIn, for example, but I think the original idea stems from Twitter, and we will have a look at these hashtags later on. In the very last tweet on this page, you can find the one from Quarter Translations. There are some more translation relevant hashtags. For example, there is tech, there is culture, translation written out. That is all right if we have enough space. And the next one is this XL8, which is a basic hashtag for translation, translate, translator, whatever, everything connected with a translate. VR, I guess, is virtual reality, and it's all written out in the next hashtag. So hashtag is something very, 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 very central within Twitter. So of course, writing a tweet is quite simple. This is the German interface on my computer, but I'm sure you will get the idea, get the gist here. It is Startseite. That is of course the home page, the very, very start. And if you want to send a tweet, you just add your text. Remember, maximum 280 characters in the compose box at the very top of your home timeline, and you just click the tweet button. So you can include 280 characters, a maximum of 4 photos, because just as in Facebook, if you add a photo, it will get a higher visibility, or it will be seen or be noticed much better. And you can also add 1 GIF, or you can, if you want, you can add 1 video. But it's not so, for some reason, at least in my Twitter universe, I don't see so very many GIFs and so many videos. But of course, it depends on those accounts that I follow, or those who follow me. So you build up your own network, your own structure in Twitter. Yeah, so it's up to you, of course, how you want to set it up in the end. And it's one thing is very important to know here, that when you send a tweet, the Twitter platform, it differs quite a lot from for example Facebook, because on Facebook you decide who can see your post. You decide, I don't want to show them to the whole world. Normally, of course, you can make a public post on Facebook for the complete world, a global post, but normally you decide, this is only for my friends. So on Facebook you decide who is allowed to see this. So on Twitter, however, your tweets will be directly visible in the timeline of those who follow you, but it is also very easy for other people, let's say for millions and millions of people on Twitter who you don't follow them, they don't follow you, but they can still find your tweet. So as a matter of fact, the tweets are with a standard settings, and that's where we start. With the standard settings, tweets are visible to everybody. So on Facebook, you decide who is going to, or I give my permission to these people to see my post. On Twitter, you will have to take action to decide what people will not have the permission to see your tweets. For example, by blocking some person. It's not so easy, because you have to keep in mind you can't block 2,000 people. Of course you can, but it's very, very tedious work, of course. So normally you have to keep in mind, anything you send, you put on Twitter, any tweet you send out is visible to the complete world, which of course can have some benefits. Sometimes it's not so beneficial. It depends on the content, of course. Yeah. Sometimes it's very useful. For example, if you are if you want to complain about something, let's say you have had an awful flight with an airlines and you want to complain, you can send out a tweet and you include the Twitter address of this airline, and you send it off, and it's visible to the complete world. So these airlines, they have to react on this. Otherwise, they will get there will be a shitstorm, and they really have to do something. Yeah, so they are forced to do something, and that's very nice. I've done that a couple of times when I was not very happy with the service from some certain companies, and they reacted very, very quickly. And that is something you can use Twitter for. But please remember, it is not as Facebook. It's just the contrary. No? So let's get on to the next one. We were speaking about hashtags, and hashtags. That's something very, very, very fundamental on Twitter. We can also call them keywords. Maybe that's easier to understand. You can use hashtags on Twitter if you want to join conversation, if you want to connect with what's happening. For example, you can search for a certain hashtag, or you can tweet and add a certain hashtag just to be a part of that discussion. And most of all, you will be seen and you will be discovered if you use certain hashtags. And people you are not connected with previously, they will find your tweets because you are using the same hashtags, and they will start following you, and maybe you will start following them. And that is how you build up your network. Of course, this is not a work done in 1 week or in 4 weeks. It takes some time, but if you have the strategy, it is of course doable. And it is also important that you know how to use the hashtags in the best way. Mostly, of course, to market yourself, and that is your premium, your priority aim, and how to strengthen your visibility on Twitter. So the question is, of course, how do we use hashtag? You already know that XL8 for translate, but there are, of course, and other kind of hashtags. First of all, you can use existing hashtags. You have to look around. What kind of hashtags are my colleagues already using? there is no handbook, or there is no printed out manual with hashtags, of course. So sometimes you have to look and observe and just watch Twitter for a while. Or of course there are quite a few tutorials on YouTube, and there are quite a few websites where they describe and explain hashtags, even hashtags for translators. And if you want, you can of course even create your own hashtag. You can do whatever you want, but if only you know this hashtag, it's quite useless, because using a hashtag means that it has, I mean, the benefits of hashtags is that it is used and understood by a lot of people. So if you invent your own hashtag without explaining it, yes, that's not very, I mean, that's not a very good idea, because nobody else would understand it. And another thing with hashtags, and that's quite interesting, is that all tweets that include the same hashtag, they are connected. Which means if you go into the search field in Twitter and you search not for a word, you don't search for a person, you search for a hashtag. You search for a certain hashtag. For example, hashmark XL8. And then just search, and Twitter will show you all those thousands and thousands of tweets that include this hashtag. And then you can see, okay, there are so many different people, so many different Twitter users applying this hashtag. And there are more hashtags for interpreting. We will look at them in a second, and so on. So the main idea behind using hashtags is that it has to be common knowledge, and a lot of people should use it already, because if there's only one person using one hashtag and this hashtag is not nobody else understands it, it's quite useless. But if there is a common hashtag, you will of course find it, and you will find a lot of interesting tweets, and you will find a lot of interesting users maybe you want to connect with. For example, if you want to see what translators are there, yeah, you can just look for tweets with this hashtag XL8, because it's quite unique for translators. I don't know if there are other topics, something else has nothing to do with translation, and they use the same hashtag. I'm not really sure. But if you look for this hashtag, you find the tweets, and you can look behind who are the people sending off these tweets. Maybe I should network with them. And of course, as I told you, it's easier to find tweets. Yeah, instead of looking for certain words, you have to look for certain hashtags, and which is a much better idea. Okay, so there are of course some different hashtag categories. For example, sometimes we notice there are some special days within translation or within interpreting, or in any kind of business. For example, there is the International Translation Day, which was some weeks ago, and the hashtag used for that was very often hashmark, of course, ITD22, or sometimes ITD 2022. So if you want to know about all tweets within this topic, you start looking for the hashtag ITD22, and you will find lots. Or the same for International Mother Language Day 2022, IMLD, International Mother Language Day 22. So you just look for this hashtag, which is of course very convenient. Maybe you have to think the next step. You can look for IMLD 22 or 2022. It depends on, because sometimes there is an official hashtag, and sometimes they're just like, okay, both would be possible. For example, I have already seen there is a hashtag for the EAPTI conference in Timișoara in Romania in 2023. And I have seen there are already some tweets around, and this this or these tweets, they often have this, I think it's official kind of, EAPTI 2023. So if you start looking for the hashtag EAPTI 2023, it means, of course, you are looking for information about the EAPTI conference teams. So just imagine if we will not use hashtags, we will start looking for single words. And let's say somebody misspells the name Timisoara, or misspells the name conference because they are not that their English is not on par, maybe, or maybe they type too quickly, whatever. Of course, there are many sources of errors if you have to look for certain words. So instead, we use these hashtags. And remember, this limited number of characters in Twitter, 280 characters. So by using hashtags, there are many benefits, of course. Also, another category, we are speaking about certain topics, and now we are getting into the translation and interpreting world. For example, the translation, XL8. We don't look for the word translation. We don't look for the word translate. We don't look for translator or in any other language. We just look for the hashtag XL8. Or about interpreting. These are common hashtags. I'm not really sure who once came up with these, but some of them have been around for many years, and yeah, it's impossible to find out who was the original user. But this INT, it's interpreting. It's very common. Or the it's quite a new one for remote simultaneous interpreting, RSI. And if you look for RSI, it is of course possible that this hashtag RSI is used for something completely different. It is possible, of course, because there are other businesses around, and they don't look into other aspects if it has already been taken or been used or whatever, because these hashtags, they are not Twitter official hashtags. They are set up by the users, of course. So in the course of the time, RSI has been established as a hashtag for remote simultaneous interpreting. Sometimes, and that's quite a funny way of making a hashtag. For example, if you look at localization with Z or S, it depends on how you want to spell it. What is the reason for this 10 in the middle? Well, it's quite easy. First, you take the letter L, then there are 10 letters in between, and these 10 letters, they end with N at the end. So there's L, 10 letters, and the N. So that is the localization. And of course, it looks a bit like lion, and that's I know there are some businesses and some agencies, and they use this as a lion for localization. This playing around with this word, with this abbreviation, with this hashtag. So that's also. But this is the way how to condense, how to make it short, how to abbreviate and still make people understand, and the space is limited. Also, a topic that has been up, well, for at least 5 years or even longer, the post editing machine translation business. And very often we find the hashtag PEMT, which is an obvious abbreviation for post editing machine translation. And machine translation, by the way, is very often only MT, but MT is quite general for other areas as well. So it's a bit tricky. If you only look for one hashtag, of course you can combine and look for tweets with 3 hashtags in them. So it's like, these tweets I'm looking for, they must have these 3 hashtags. If you only look for one hashtag, and this one hashtag is hashmark MT, and just look for MT, you will get a lot of irrelevant tweets. So you have to find out the best method how to find what you're looking for. But for example, if we look at XL8 or 1NT for interpreting, and we only look for this one hashtag, we will get a number of tweets, and all these tweets, they are connected to each other because they share the same hashtag. So okay, after this we let's have a look, just a second. Here we go. Again, if we look into XL8, which is of course the central hashtag on Twitter, it is not only seen from an English language perspective. It is also seen from, I can use it also for other languages. So it by using hashtags, we save space, and we also it's easier to search, because some hashtags, they are applied in several languages, which means, of course, it can be for translation, translate, and translator. But it can also be for the French corresponding words. I will not speak French tonight. And it can also be for the German terms, of course, and it can be for the Spanish, and so on, because this hashtag is not only used in an English language context, it can be used in many languages. I wouldn't say all languages, because for example in Swedish we have our own, but we also use this XL8, but in Swedish we have our own one, which is more or less an abbreviation of the Swedish word. But as you can see here, if you search for this hashtag XL8, instead of looking for all kind of variations in one language or in 2 or 3 or 4 languages, you can save a lot of time, and you will get many relevant hits, of course. So all right, so we have spoken a lot about hashtags, and that is something very central in on Twitter, of course. And the question that one raises is maybe, but there are so many platforms, and there are already, and I don't have so much time. Why should I start with Twitter? Why should I go to Twitter? Well, first of all, on Twitter there are thousands and thousands of translators and interpreters, localizers, LSPs, and other language professionals around. And so from my point of view, it is a perfect place to start building up your network. And apart from those other users, that there are many translators around, many interpreters around, there can be many different reasons, and we are now looking for networking. But not only network with our colleagues, we also use it as a place where we can share knowledge. For example, if you have found an article somewhere, or you have heard about an interesting event or a conference, a webinar, or something similar, and you think this would be interesting to your colleagues, to your followers, or all in all on Twitter, because as you know, whatever you tweet on Twitter, it's of course visible to your followers, but it's also visible for the rest. So then you should share this knowledge, and it can of course it's appreciated, because not everybody knows about that webinar. Not everybody knows about that new kind of online glossary just published last week. Not everybody knows about that. So, and from my experience, that is sharing knowledge is very appreciated. And on the other side, of course, if you're looking for information and within a very narrow area, and you really don't know where to start, you should start on Twitter. either using hashtags, or you can send out a question. Does anybody know about this and this? Does anybody know how to solve this and this problem? Or I am looking for information about this and this. I'm quite sure on Twitter you will find the answer, because all tweets you publish, they are visible to everybody, and you know how many millions or billions of users there are on Twitter. So I think it's a safe fact to claim that that this platform has developed into an important resource for our business, and even for other businesses as well. So about the key takeaways. If we are trying to conclude, let's have a closer look at some of the benefits with Twitter. Of course, I'm now biased because I'm quite often on Twitter, but let's have a closer look at some of the benefits. There are many, but just look at some of them. All the messages, they are shown in real time. It takes only seconds from the moment, or not even seconds, maybe 1 second before somebody has tweeted, and it's in your feed, in your timeline. So it's more or less a real time. It's a real, the speed is crucial, really. And it's the place where you can establish your own network, your tailor-made network, which means even if you have users following you, okay, I have noticed they follow me, but I'm not really keen on following them, because I'm not keen on their content, on their business. But okay, if they want to follow me, I can't ban them. Of course I could ban them, I can block them, but I mean, it's okay, they can follow me, but I don't really have to feel obliged to follow them. So I can establish my own network. And I can also search directly with hashtags, as already described. And I can share interesting tweets, interesting information within my circles, and then just hope that somebody who is in my circle maybe retweets this to their circles outside my circle, and then it's retweeted and it's spread all over to as many people as possible, of course. And the main benefit here is, of course, that tweets are searchable on Google. Whatever you post on Twitter, whatever you tweet, it is registered, it is recorded by Google, so it's there somewhere. Then of course it depends on a number of algorithms. It will come up on the first page, or on page number 25, or whatever. But if you stay to more or less a certain or a closed number of topics, you will not tweet about translation, about pets, about gardening, and about too many topics. So you have to stay quite condensed to stick to a few topics, but stick to them, and tweet continuously, not only once a week, but a couple of times every day. Then your tweets, they will be searchable on Google. And I mean, a tweet can also be a marketing tweet from your side, and you say, I'd like to present myself, I am translating from these languages to these languages, I am specialized in this and this, and if you'd like to contact me, this is my mail address. Or you can contact me directly via Twitter, because there's something also which is called direct messages, like private messages on Twitter as well. And if you tweet that, it's of course also on Google. And if you do that a couple of times, let's say you do that, you send this kind of tweet once in a week, and you do that for a couple of months, I'm quite sure you will be you will have a very good visibility on Google. So, and finally, I would like to just mention, stay on topic and don't exaggerate. Don't spend your life on Twitter, and try to keep it. I mean, you decide if you want to make it a bit more personal flavored or more business flavored. It's your Twitter. So you can personalize your network. You can personalize your Twitter, just as you personalize what kind of tweets you can see. And because it all depends on the followers you have chosen. So if you are very new on Twitter and you have only picked out 5 accounts to follow, and you will only get tweets from these 5 accounts, of course. And if they don't tweet very often, it will stay the same timeline. Maybe it will not change on your screen for an hour or 2 hours or maybe half a day, because you don't have that number of people you follow, and those people, they don't tweet very often, or maybe they tweet in quite various topics that are not so interesting. So when you pick those accounts to follow, have a look or take a closer look what they're tweeting about. Are they translators, or maybe they are potential clients? Why not? That's quite interesting. And then you could, of course, follow them. That would be useful. Okay, so that's about it. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for listening. And if you'd like to contact me, if you have any questions, very welcome to drop me a mail, or you can find me on Twitter, and where you can just drop a tweet, or you can drop me a short direct message, which is directly to me. It's not visible to everybody. That's also possible on Twitter. So that's it. Now I'd like to hand over the microphone to Aurora for the Q&A session.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Are any questions?
Very, very interesting. I have one question.
Yes.
In fact, it's more like a psychological thing, because I used to think that not following those who follow me was very rude. I really felt bad. I used to feel bad about that. But the problem I have with Twitter is that I sometimes feel overwhelmed by tweets, and I get distracted. So I start like opening doors and then I really need to focus on finding new clients. So I either do not follow back mostly colleagues, or I unfollowed colleagues. So I really felt bad about that. Yeah, but yeah. I need to focus. I'm currently following publishers mostly, and a couple of exceptions. This is just sharing how I felt about not following.
Well, it's not really rude. I don't regard it as rude not to follow back, because I take the decision whom am I going to follow, because in the end, the people I follow, I get all their tweets in my feed, in my timeline. So if I notice they, well, sometimes I decided to follow some people, but then I noticed after a week, after a month maybe, that all the stuff they were tweeting, they are translators, but they tweet about completely irrelevant things that are not interesting to me, and then I just say, okay, I just unfollow you. Yeah, it is not really rude, because there is another thing I didn't mention in this webinar because it would take too much time. But on Twitter, you can set up lists. You can set up lists of different accounts, and you don't have to follow these accounts. You can set up a list of interesting people, and without following them. So if I have this list, and this list has, let's say, 100 people, maybe I follow only 10 of these people. So only these 10, the tweets from these 10 people will show up in my feed. However, if I open the list and I click on some certain buttons, I can make the setup that Twitter shows me the feed from this list, shows me the tweets from these 100 people that I do not follow, but I have them in a list. So for example, I have one list which is general, it's called Lingo, general about languages. I have one list which is about indigenous culture, indigenous languages. I have one list which is only for Swedish news, and so on. And I don't follow. I follow maybe a couple of them in each list, but I don't follow them everybody, because if I had done so, my feed, my timeline would be overcrowded, so it will take too much time. And as you say, it is really a time consumer if I want to follow up and follow links and this and this. Of course, sometimes you have to neglect it. Just like, okay, I read what there is. I read this short message. Sometimes, of course, there is, or very often, there is a link somewhere going, and then you get somewhere and you get into an article which is very interesting and so on. And then all of a sudden you notice, oh, I have wasted 30 minutes of my life just because I was curious. And of course, so you need a certain strategy, and sometimes, okay, this is interesting, but I can't spend my half of my day on Twitter because there is work to be done. Mm-hmm. I could share my screen about these if you like. I can show you. Let's see if I can show you my screen. Let's see. Here we go. So this is my Twitter. This is what's happening in my Twitter at the moment. And if I click on these lists, these are my lists. I will just show you. These are lists that belong to me. And I just scroll a little bit down. My first is Beer and More, yes. And but for example, I have one which is about, let me scroll down a little bit, indigenous and minority. That is one of my many lists. If I click on that list, you can see in this list I have 260. There are 264 members. I don't follow 264 people or accounts. They are only in my list, so I can add any account to my list. I don't have to follow them first or whatever. And if I click on this one, I get a list. I get a short list of all these accounts. They are like first people in America. They are a bit about minorities in Germany, minorities in Sweden, and minority languages in general. And for example, if I just pick one, speak Gaelic, I am already following them, so I can't follow them again. Let me go down a little bit. Let me go down. Let me see if I find something here. I don't know if I follow everybody here. Maybe it was a bad list. Here, for example, this is about Aboriginal in Australia. So this account is on my list. So if I want to take half an hour or 1 hour just to read about Aboriginal or about indigenous stuff, which tweets from accounts in this list. These accounts, I don't follow these accounts. For example, this is one account that not yet. I do not follow them. I can, of course, if I want, but I think, no, it's then too much, because if there is a list of 265 accounts, and maybe I follow 40 of them as of today, and if I just follow everybody, maybe I will have too much of that stuff, and I want more translation stuff. But if I'm interested in what's happening within this field, I can just open the list and I can look into tweets from the accounts in that very list. And that is a way how to filter out, either with hashtags, as I mentioned before, or I can filter out if I have set up my own list, or I can use lists from other people as well. I mean, there are many lists, and I can look into the tweets visible in that list. So let's have a look. Here we go again. So what we are looking at here now, indigenous and minority, that is the name of the list. And what we see down here, starting with Jane, Sitol Jane. That is the first tweet from a member of that list. She tweeted 1 minute ago. And the second one, NPLD, we will look into it, European Network to Promote Linguist Diversity, and so on. They tweeted 5 minutes ago. So you notice there is some activity in this list, but I don't follow them everybody, because if I do that, or if I would have done that, it would be very, very crowded and very, very time consuming and very confusing. Yeah. And this is how I have solved it. I now go back to other lists I have. For example, I have one list which is about, I will show you. It's not really language. It's about European Union. This list belongs to me. It's my list, but anybody can find it. Anybody can see it, and anybody can follow the list. For example, you see here, there are, so here we go. There are, there are 181 members. There are 181 accounts in this list. I can't tell you how many I follow. Not everybody, but there's more than one. And there are 5 Twitter users. They follow this list. You can follow a list, you can follow accounts. If they follow this list and something is happening in this list, they get a notification about that. So, and here, only 10 seconds ago, Josep Borrell Fonteles, 10 seconds ago, he tweeted something, because he is a member of that list. I'm not sure if I follow him. Let's have a look at him. Yes, I am following him. Yeah, so this tweet of him, it is visible also in my normal timeline, because I follow him also. But I don't follow everybody, all accounts in this list. So, and that is a way how to filter it, how to say, okay, I want to split up, because it's not everything language. Sometimes I want to make a list about literature, or maybe even fiction literature, about children's literature, about language in general, translators within a certain language pair, indigenous cultural languages, and so on. So, of course, you can make a list called languages. It's all up to you, and you can all decide who is going to be a member of this list. But once you get too many, it's too crowded. It's too much. So yes, Ellen. I don't.
Okay,
yes.
yeah. I fervently hope that you are going to give a talk on time management, because you're following 11,900 accounts. And if every one of those accounts only posted once a day, how do you do it?
Well, they don't. Well, as a matter of fact, I am often looking for tweets with certain hashtags. So it's not like I am reading everything from everybody, because if I would do so, imagine if I look to my, let's have a look. This is my, because this is my, yeah, because this is my timeline. And you see here now in my timeline, there are 39 tweets added, not yet visible. Okay. So if I now click on these 39 tweets, of course, the 39 are not shown all on my screen. Maybe the first 3 or 4, and the remaining, they are forgotten. They are gone. And that is, and because Twitter can be quite congested, it is important to apply hashtags in order to find what you're looking for, and also in order to have them other find me, what I'm tweeting about. For example, what I have tweeted today, I can show you what I have. Let's see what I have sent out today. There is a pinned tweet, which I always keep at the very top. I don't change it really. So today I have tweeted, for example, an article about regional accents. I sent that out approximately one hour ago. And because of space limitations, I used the headline. The headline is headline of the article. I abused that one by adding hash marks to certain words instead of repeating myself and adding these words at the very bottom, because why should I waste time? Yeah, so I put in some hash marks. So regional accents, they are now hashtags, of course, and they also added language, because this is language relevant. So anybody looking for tweets with a hashtag language will possibly, maybe not, find my tweets. It depends how many thousands or maybe not so many thousands other tweets with these hashtags are around at the very moment, or in this hour or these 3 hours. It depends. I'm not really sure. I can, of course, we can look that up. Just a moment. We can look that up. If I look at search Twitter, I'm now at the very top right. And I say hashtag. So, and now we will look for tweets with this hashtag language. Let's make it latest, not top, but latest, which means we get a chronological order of everything that is about language, not necessarily about translation. Here, for example, I don't know what this is about, but it's about Bible language. Yes, they have this language. All right. And here is something I can't understand. This one from Bridge Crew, that is a suggested. This is what I mentioned. Yeah. This is a suggested tweet, or suggested is more, let's say, I don't know. Yeah. Advertisement, I would call it. It's promoted. It says here promoted. Yeah. So just leave it aside. So, and here is somebody speaking about vernacular languages. However, that is not the reason why this was picked. It was picked because you see it's in bold.
And by adding more hashtags in your search field, you can narrow the results. Is that correct?
Exactly. Because if I take the same search again, but I will not look for language, I will look into XL8. However, I combine this with a second hashtag, which means the tweets, they have to include both. It's not this or that, it's and. You know this Boolean, it has to be both. So I add, you remember, 1 and T. So first of all, it shows me some people and this and that, but they are not interesting. You remember my description, my profile bio? It's the same here, XL8. Yeah. So, but we want to look for tweets. So I look for tweets, and here we go. The first one is from ATA, and there is a tweet about Canada, and you notice this one and this one. Both are included. So the more hashtags I include in my search, the narrower the search, of course. But of course, the hashtags, they must be applied. If they're not applied, I will not find anything. Or if I have my own hashtags, nobody understands. It's like one person speaking his own language. Of course, that's not very, very useful. Yeah. So this is how to let's have a look. This is how to search. And here's something I sent today. Already answered. I sent this today to Aurora. Because this was a reply to another tweet. If I now click on my tweet from this one, from 3 hours ago, we will now see the story. You see the line?
Yeah.
The thread. And it started with October 17th. So Aurora sent a reply to this first one, sent today, included my name, so I found it easily. It just popped up in my feed, and there was also an extra notification from Twitter. Listen, your name was mentioned. So, and my answer, my reply to this one, by the way, you can see this number 1, and that is my reply, of course. It's my reply, and it's here. And my reply consists of Yapti, I've just added some, webinar, okay, and these 2, Xlate and 1 NT, because they are really, really basic, and everybody's looking for this kind of hashtag. Everybody in the translation and interpreting universe, Twitter universe, they are looking for these. Yeah. So you're right there, Ellen. The more hashtags, the more keywords you combine, the narrower your search will be. The less hits you will get, but more relevant, of course.
Erik, I have a question for you regarding being present, being liked, being shared. Because of my experience with my own blog has no replies ever. Nobody ever comments on my blog. And I write nice, interesting things about literature and translation. Nobody ever replies. I think it's in a way because blogs are a bit outdated. That's my feeling. But I keep posting because that is my persona, my literary persona. That's the place where I can show all my interests, and everything is there, like it's a hub, it's put together, even when there are no comments, which in principle can be a bit frustrating. I have the feeling that the same applies to Twitter. Sometimes, for some reason, some of the things I post are retweeted or liked. Sometimes they are not, but I keep posting. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I understand that you have your blog space, and you share links to the blog entries. You share those links on Twitter.
Yeah.
But you are adding hashtags as well.
Yes, but in fact my question is like a psychological one. It's like even though when one doesn't get a lot of feedback, I have the feeling, but this is just my own intuition, maybe I'm wrong. That I
understand what you mean. I understand what you mean. Maybe one solution is that not only adding hashtags, but also adding people, adding their Twitter names, if they agree with it, of course. It can be a bit annoying if it happens to somebody all the time and you haven't agreed with them. They can be annoyed and maybe block you. But by adding names, you can have a list of, let's say you can have a list of 50 names, and if you have space enough, you can add 5 names in each tweet, and then you have a rotating schedule. And so they feel a little bit psychological, a little bit obliged to not only like it, but maybe to comment it. And if they comment, it's all of a sudden it's at a totally other visibility than only to click on like and whatever. And of course, if there is a link inside, and maybe they even share it, these people, they share to their circles, you will yield some traffic to your blog space as well. So that might be an idea. Seeing this from the psychological aspect, perspective, that you have to make people, you have to activate people. And by adding their names, maybe they feel a little bit. I do it,
but the thing is, some people don't like it. I'm trying to be visible for publishers and very specific type of publishers. So what I do is I post pictures of the books I read, and I include the publishers. They go. I can see that they go and see what I do, and that's been a kind of effect. But the thing is that I don't get feedback usually, and my point of view and my suggestion is, even if you don't, keep posting, because it's frustrating, but you have to do it.
Yes, it depends on exactly. The question is how to activate. I mean, there can be people, they read what writing, what they read your blog post, and maybe most probably they see what you are sending on Twitter, but they don't react. So you don't even know what's happening. You don't know if it has been 10 people or 1,000 people. But
Yeah, but not necessarily talking about the blog. I just forget about the blog because I know that it has no traffic, and I'm not worried about it because it's my bio. It's been very useful for me because publishers that went there, nobody comments, but they say it's very interesting how you posted this on the Nobel Prize, blah blah blah. So I know that that's like it's a charge off to me. No feedback, fine, it works all the same. But I mean, in Twitter, even if you don't get any likes, just keep tweeting.
Yes, keep tweeting. There are some, for example, if you want to activate people, I have noticed activating people. It's for example, you can share a poll. That's because people, they are crazy for polls.
Yes, whatever you ask.
Yeah, they are crazy for polls. And also, maybe you have to look into other kind of hashtags or adding other. Also, you can keep your old hashtags, but maybe add some more hashtags. Because people, they are searching for certain hashtags. I mean, when I'm looking for interesting stuff on Twitter, I'm not necessarily looking for one person and looking what have they written. I'm looking for a hashtag or a certain topic, and then what can I find about this? And then of course filter shows me anything relevant. I mean, those who tweet, they have to use hashtags, of course, properly. If they don't, I can't help them.
Of course.
But I've noticed that from what I tweet, sometimes there's I have to confess, sometimes I have tweets about Swedish language and Swedish word of the day. It happens that and there is a picture, and there is a Swedish word and the English word, and there's little translation about the word itself, maybe a bit etymology and a history around it. So sometimes there are like 30 or 40 likes and retweets, many. But sometimes there is not one single reaction.
Cricket.
Nothing. So and that is very I mean, it's very hard to put the finger on the reason why this happens. It has to be something with algorithms, or sometimes I've noticed if it has been discovered and maybe retweeted or only liked by a very, very famous or huge account. Maybe that huge account, they have 800,000 followers, and if that account, if they find your tweet and they only like it, all of a sudden it's just exploding.
Yeah, it happened to me also.
Yeah. So, but it's very difficult, or it's impossible to put the finger on why does it work fine today, but 3 days ago I posted something similar and nothing happened. So, but you have to keep up. It's just like you said, not stop, keep up and keep up, because in the end you land on Google.
That's great news, really.
That's right. Huh? Yeah. So it's a continuous work, and it also depends on what you want to share. I have also noticed that if I share articles, for example, this one, there might be 1 or 2 people, they like it and retweet. But sometimes when I write something more, not really personal, but when I just drop a little tweet about a client who decided not to pay, or a client who showed up with very, very strange questions or strange suggestions from my daily work, people are crazy for that as well, just as they are for polls. And they just start commenting because they can relate to this, and they feel not really a pressure, but they feel an urge to take part in this discussion, in this debate, or maybe tell me or maybe support me, whatever. So in those cases, when I share something from my daily life, or I tell them that, oh, tonight it can be something very, very simple. Tonight I'm heading to a gathering with translators, and we are going to do this and this, or maybe the next day I post some pictures, whatever, if the people who attended, if they agree, and everybody's just crazy about that. And so of course, it's very strange, and it also depends on your network.
But we
Who
shouldn't be
is going to
discouraged.
read your stuff?
Yeah, totally. I mean, you
Yeah.
need to invest time on that. I got my
Yes.
best client, somebody I had been writing in prose for many years, in 2000, 2001. And then I was writing something about Caetano Veloso, the Brazilian
Yes.
musician. And so somebody was interested in what I wrote. She went to my profile and she
Yeah.
proposed me to a huge client. I worked for 17 years, my best client ever. Just because I was writing about Caetano Veloso and investing time talking with my Spanish-speaking colleagues. So the persona, the internet persona, to me is something we need to invest in, even if we don't have the many claps and 100 likes. It doesn't matter. We need to be there.
Exactly, because it's not really, as I told him in my webinar, it's not really about the number of users on a certain platform. It's about the quality.
Yeah.
Because if we go on Twitter and there are only 300 million people, I mean, if there are 3 million potential clients, it's enough for me. I will not find 3 million potential clients on Facebook, because Facebook, I use Facebook, but that's for other causes. Okay. I don't use it in the way I use Twitter. So we have to look into the quality of the network, or what are we aiming for? Of course, Facebook is good for those causes, and Twitter is good for these causes. So if it's not like all social media can be used in the same kind of way. We have to know what are we aiming for and what are we hoping for, and then of course it's not like sitting there. We just can't sit there and wait something was going to happen, because we have to invest.
Yeah, thousands of colleagues adore you because you created a TTNS list, which is really awesome. But they might probably, I mean, they can refer you to a client, but they are colleagues, they are not clients. So the clients are probably not there.
Yes,
so
exactly. But on the other, but on the other side, many of my very best clients, they are recommendations from colleagues.
Yeah, also. Fine.
So it's. I mean, of course, I also have some clients. I found them directly, or they found me directly, and so it's all a mix, of course. Yeah, but I mean, being visible within the colleague network, it's can always be beneficial.
Yeah, of course. That's great.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so I hope I have explained Twitter, and maybe somebody will start spending their time on Twitter a bit more or less. I don't know. Of course, you can spend a lot of time. You can spend a lot
in the bio to start with, Eric.
Yes.
Because I didn't have it. I only have translator, president, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But then I added the hashtag. So if now I have too many clients, I will need help.
Yeah, I have to I have to also confess that it's a lot about trial and error as well, because it depends. Of course, you can ask a lot of people, and there are experts and this and that, and they tell you, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that one, and never do that, because that's a mistake, and you will be a loser and whatever. But Twitter, first of all, Twitter changes all the time, and we are in different business sectors, and Twitter, they change their algorithms, and they introduce more features, and they delete some features all of a sudden, and so we have to stay on top and being active all the time. It's not possible to be on Twitter just like once a month and then hope everything, because everything has changed all of a sudden, you notice, if you are not there so very often.
Yeah, the challenge is that this is not a white or black thing. That's right. There are many grays, and that's what we need to do. How much time to spend on Instagram? I also use Instagram to try to be pretty for potential publishers. So I share pictures of the books I'm reading. I tag them, and a couple contacted me through Instagram, to my surprise.
Really, yeah. Because I only apply Instagram 100% privately, I think. And because sharing content, image content, pictures or whatever, and it's 99% only private. So because I haven't found out the way how to how to contact and how to find clients on Instagram. I don't think they're on Instagram. There are few on Facebook, and I would say there are even fewer on Instagram.
There are hundreds of publishers on Instagram.
Ah, that's good. That's
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah, and they react to things I publish. Then they go to my stories, which are kind of fun, about puns and things about language. So I know that that's interesting for them. And if my friends love them, the
That's
better.
good.
But my
Yeah, that's
my
good.
objective is totally different, a money-wise thing.
Oh yes. Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if anybody has another question, or we just call it a day and wait for your third 3 or 4 webinars in a month.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Thank you for giving me the
very much.
opportunity, and
Thank you.
And let's
Have a good day,
continue
have a good
tweeting
evening.
and try
Yeah.
to get more and better clients.
everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. You're the
Bye-bye.
best.
Bye.
Bye.